Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel, and another video about masking in Darktable and understanding the head trip. And we are going to look at some more techniques for external raster masks. So we'll call this episode 2A, because little tip coming up for those of you who use Photoshop to integrate external raster masks with Darktable. Thanks to the scientist guy, he showed me a little workaround where I don't even have to go anywhere near GIMP, which is wonderful as far as I'm concerned. So scientist guy, big thumbs up. And I've had one or two questions about, can you actually deploy more than one external raster mask? Well, the answer to that is yes. So we're going to illustrate that in a very loose manner by creating a couple of versions of a mask. There is just no way on God's earth that you can create them inside a Darktable, because they are depth maps. And I'm also going to show you, if you use Photoshop, the scientist guys walk around, yes, to not use GIMP. We've got this just rough and ready photograph I took in the Commonwealth War Graves Cemetery on Cannock Chase of Private C.S.Dickson from the Bedfordshire Regiment, who passed away on the 13th of November 1918, aged just 19. And rather sad, really. I don't know the story of how it all happened, but he died 2 days after the bloody awful Sorori finished, because it finished on the 11th of November 1918. So there's got to be a moral in there somewhere, hasn't there? So, game plan, as per normal. What do we want to do? Sky's very bright, foreground's a bit darker. We need to change things around a bit, and we need to draw attention to the headstone of Private Dickson. Right, so that's the game plan. So how are we going to do this? First of all, we've got to get the image to a workable stage inside a Darktable. So we're here with my standard starting module setups and deployment of output color profile, pro photo, input color profile, linear pro photo. Exposure is on, but there's no adjustment. Orientation. Okay, so orientation, no rotation. That is the native orientation of the image, and you'll notice I'm working on a, I hate the terminology, but we're working on a portrait format image. In other words, one that's shot vertical. I did mention in last week's video that you will have problems if you are not careful with external raster masks on images that are shot in this manner. So, but of course you can't work on an image when it's tipped over on its side. Well, I can't anyway. So we're actually just going to put a corrective orientation of 90 degrees counterclockwise on this, but we will have to remember to put it back when we do the export, or when we create the TIFF for export. Right, so chromatic aberration on demosaicing is it's normal the way I have it. Raw chromatic aberrations on highlight reconstruction on at normal bog standard in paint opposed with a value of 1. White balance as shot. Okay, so we are going to make a little change to that in a minute, but the first thing I'm going to do is try and get contrast a little bit more under control and get the image a little bit more evened out. And of course my favourite new way of doing that will be to engage sigmoid in either neutral grey or, where's it gone, there we go, or better still, for me at any rate, Reinhardt. Okay, and now the image is gone very flat. Colours are still there, which they're not if you go for a neutral grey, and you'll notice how much the highlights have come into range of our sort of standard dynamic range workflow. So that's good as far as I'm concerned, and all I'm going to do is to just give it a little boost in warmth, but not very much. Something a little bit like that, maybe not quite that much, 5.2, something like that, and we'll consider that ready to rock and roll. We don't have to do very much to the image, because what we do to the image, processing wise, to make it look better, will start once we've got the external raster masks deployed inside of Darktable. So what we need to do now is to go back to orientation and switch that back to no rotation. Woohoo! Okie dokie. So we will come back. We'll go for a small view so we can see what we're doing. So with those very minimal adjustments on, we're going to go to light table, and with that raw file selected, we are going to come down, exporting to this collection, TIFF 16-bit, unsigned integer, uncompressed, none of this malarkey. B&W is grayscale, allow upscaling, it's irrelevant, high quality resampling, no, pro photo, relative colorimetric, style, none, start export, and there we go. Right, so now we've got our TIFF. I'm going to come over to my external editor, which if we go up to settings and we come to lure options, you should have your external editors set up something akin to this. So we are going to edit in number 1 Photoshop 2025. So here we go, we're opening up Photoshop, and there we go. Again, we can't work, or at least I can't work, on an image that's canted over on its side, so we'll go to image rotation 90 degrees counterclockwise, and just double tap the little hand key to bring it back to a fit to screen view. And as I said, what I'm going to do is make what you call a depth map. 1 or 2 bits of software will make depth maps, but of course I'm just going to use Photoshop, and so all we are going to do is come over to the layers panel, and we're going to go to filter, and we are going to go to neural filters, and I am going to come to depth blur, and we are going to output only the depth map, and so we'll click OK, and that will just about do. We'll come to channels, we can select just the blue channel, it doesn't matter because all 3 channels all look the same. We'll click the select icon button down at the bottom, and then we'll click the mask button to add a new alpha channel. And what I'm also going to do is add a second alpha channel, and I am going to Command I to invert that alpha channel. So our sky is black, and we've got increasingly lighter greys as we come closer to the camera, apart from this bit at the bottom. Well, that doesn't really matter, and we'll go Command D to deselect, and then I'm going to do a little modification to this alpha channel, because this is the one I really want. Okay, the other one will come in useful, the lighter one, but we need to make some modifications to this. So I am going to go to select, and we are going to go to color range, and now you can see that blockiness there. Alrighty, and so what I am going to do is, with localized color clusters on, fuzziness at 15, and without the invert tab on, thank you very much, I am going to click plus, and I am just going to draw across there on the image, or I could have done it inside here. And so all of this area that had got blockiness in it has now disappeared to pretty much flat white. So that is good. And so we'll click OK. I don't need to paint anything down here, but what I do need to do is get a brush and paint it in black at an opacity of 100 and a flow of 100, and I'm just going to come in and paint all across there. So I'm going to drive that sky totally black. Okay, I think I've just about got it. And so we had got an active selection down here, that's why I didn't go fill with black. So there we go, and that will just about do us nicely. So that is our modified alpha channel. We could actually go and just go to adjustments a little bit and put a curves adjustment on it, just to increase the contrast a little bit. And so we'll tug in the whites a little bit like that as well, and we'll click OK. And that will just about do. Second thing I'm going to do is to go to image, duplicate, because we want both of these alpha channels, but the way we've got to format the images, we can't have both alpha channels in the same image. So I'm just going to click OK, and there we go. So this one is going to be our alpha 1 channel. I'm going to turn everything else off, and I am going to go to, and this is where we start to get into the scientist guys' little tip here for avoiding GIMP altogether. We can go to image mode, grayscale, and we can go flatten image, discard other channels, and then we need to come to image mode, and we go to 32-bit, and then we need to rotate this image, and so we need to go to image rotation 90 degrees clockwise, and we need to go to file, and we need to go to save as, and I'm going to save it in my Darktable Raster Masks folder, which is on my desktop, and I am going to call this LS for light sky, and I am going to call it DM for depth mask. But we're not saving it as a TIFF, we are saving this as a portable bitmap. Okay, and we go save, and then we come over to this one. We've got alpha 2 selected, that's the modified inverse depth map, and we are going to go to image mode, grayscale, and we're going to go flatten layers, and we're going to discard all the channels. We're going to go to image mode 32-bit. We're also going to go to image rotation 90 degrees even clockwise, and we're going to go to file, save as, as dark sky depth map, and we're going to save this in our Darktable Raster Mask folder as a portable bitmap. And we're going to go save. We're then going to come to our Finder, and we are going to come back to that folder, and we are going to right click and go to rename, and we are just going to backspace the B and replace it with an F, so it now says PFM as opposed to PBM. We're going to do the same with the other one. Rename, just come in there, backspace the B, replace it with an F, click outside, job sorted. So now we can go and do some fancy stuff. Right, so let's come back into Darktable, and as I said to you last week, this TIFF is no longer required, so we can go delete to the trash, and we'll click yes on that. We can come back to the raw file, and please note it is still in its native orientation, and it's critical that it's in its native orientation because it needs to match up with the raster masks, and the raster masks need to match up with the raw file in its native rotational state. That's for loading the masks into Darktable. Now, we are answering the question, can we have more than one external raster mask? And the answer to that is yes, but I must again give big props to the scientist guy for that nice little Photoshop only walk around. So what we'll do is we will bring this raw file back over into the develop module, and we are going to go to External Raster Masks, and we're going to go to the folder underneath the word mode, and we are going to click on dark sky depth map, and we're going to go select, and there we go. And all we now need to do is to right click on there and call this DSDM, and click OK. And then what we need to do is go to make a new instance, and there we go, and we can come in here and we can go LSDM and select the other variant. There we go. And so what we can do now is control click rename LSDM, and that way we know which one's which, don't we? So we've now got two raster masks, or external raster masks. Now these two raster masks, these are just depth maps. They could be all manner of things. They could be subject selection masks, like I demonstrated to you last week. And the thing is, Photoshop, it works on the principle of channel math, and so we can do lots and lots of individual red, green, green, blue, red, blue channel math, and vary the blending modes by which we mix that channel math up, and we can come up with some very, very, very specific masks which you can't even come anywhere close to approaching in Darktable. But we will leave all that lot for other videos. Alright, this is just answering the essential question, can we use more than one mask? So you have to use your imagination. It all depends on what the image is of and what you want to do with it. But depth maps are particularly useful for landscapers. Okay, so what we can now do is come back to our basics panel, and I can come to where's orientation gone, and I can rotate it back to its normal position, and now the available masks inside those two raster mask modules will have canted over to match this orientation of the image. But it's critical that when you send the image out for raster mask creation, and then when you bring those raster masks back into Darktable, it is essential that there's no rotation and they are matching each other in orientation. It's all to do with where you start, where Darktable starts to count the pixels in the image from. It's row counting. And so basically, I don't know whether it starts from this corner or this corner when it's counted over, but everything just has to match up in orientation until you've got the masks actually in Darktable in their correct orientation, and then you can go and reorientate the image however you want. Before we go any further, there's just one thing I want to point out. Please note where these two raster masks are in the pixel pipe. They are way behind even demosaicing. Now, that in itself is not really a problem at this juncture, but in the next video, when we start looking at drawn shapes and the mask manager, what you need to understand is this: even though you might be doing a drawn shape on a module that is higher up the pixel pipe, such as the tone equalizer or the color equalizer or whatever, the actual drawn shape that you are creating isn't actually in the same position in the pixel pipe as the module you are drawing it in. It is down here. Okay, so that can be a problem if you say drew a circular mask and then decided suddenly you wanted to put optical corrections or some other image distortion adjustment on the image. Then the shape, because it's actually further down the pipeline, might actually get distorted. Yeah, it might. I told you, the whole thing is a head trip. Anyway, let's carry on. Sounds a lot more complicated than it really is. So, we can now go and start to process the image. And I'm just going to come straight over to colour, and I'm going to go for a colour balance RGB module, because it's the module you can do most stuff in without too much effort. And we're going to click on Raster Masks, and so we are going to come to no mask used, and you can see now the benefit of renaming these raster mask modules to give you a clue as to what the raster mask does. So I'm going to come to the one that says light sky, because light sky means the sky is white in the depth map, so the sky will be yellow on this mask here. And there you go, told you it'd be yellow. So don't forget, everywhere where you can see yellow, the mask it's got a density value of 1. Where you can't see any yellow, it's got a density value of 0. And where you can see darker details through, it's less yellow, so the mask value on a pixel by pixel basis is less than 1 but greater than 0. So, do we actually want to make any adjustments to the gravestone? Well, we are going to want to make some adjustments to the gravestone, but not really the adjustments we want to make to the sky. But let's just turn the mask off for a little moment, and we will come and decide what do we want to do to the sky. We want to add a little bit more contrast to the sky, which we've duly done. We want it to have some more vibrance, and we'll give it a bit of global chroma, a bit of global saturation, and I think that looks good because we're still trying to maintain depth in the image. Now we need to come into the image at 100%. Yes, that edge is looking pretty cool. We need to go back out to a fit to screen view and come into the top of the mask and turn it off to see what difference it's made to the foreground. Actually, the difference it's made to the foreground isn't really all that objectionable, but if we come down to said raster mask and turn on the mask visualization, there it is. So could we turn the opacity down and take it off this gravestone a little bit, because I want to make the sky just a little bit darker, and that's why I need to take it off the gravestone. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the exposure down a little smidge, and you can see we've got loads of highlight headroom here now, which back in the original raw file we haven't got any. It was all way over the top dotted line in the old histogram here. So I'm going to consider that done. So I'm going to minimize the module, and then we're going to come in with a new instance of the Color Balance RGB module, which is my favourite module. And we're going to come in here, raster masks again, and we are going to come here and we are going to select dark sky this time, and let's go and visualize the mask. And so there we go. Now we can see we've got a bit of an outline up there, which we'll come to in a minute. But what I want to do here is actually turn the mask opacity up. Okay, and I also want to come into here, and you can see we've just got a little bit of dark haloing over there. So I'm just going to add a little smidge of feather to it. Can we make it go any further? That'll just about do, I think. And so we will turn the mask visualization off, and we will come out to there. Let's now go and add some perceptual brilliance grading in the midtones, shall we? And there you see we can start bringing things up. Let's open up the shadows a little bit, give it some overall brilliance grading, and let's go and have a look at the top edge of that gravestone. Is that looking all right? It's looking passable. Okay, so there we go. Are we going to use an external raster mask for anything else? I think we will. Let's go in and get a what should we do? Let's go for an exposure, because we haven't actually done anything on exposure, have we? So what we'll do is we will come in and we'll use that dark sky light foreground depth map, and we'll activate that just to check the visualization of the mask. And yeah, that's looking all right. We've still got to go and put that little bit of feather on the top, and so we'll just add a little bit of feathering, a little bit like that. Do we need to turn the mask opacity up a little bit? And I think we might actually just give the mask an extra little bit of contrast, which in case it starts to bleed very faintly into the sky, that will sort of compensate that a little bit. And so we will come out to a fit to screen view, turn off the mask visualization, and we can go and add a little bit of exposure, or rather like that. Do we want to take the black level correction down and flatten the contrast? No, we don't. We might actually want to take it up a little bit more. And so there we go. We can do all sorts of adjustments: details, threshold, feathering radius, blurring radius, mask opacity, mask contrast, as you've just seen. We can do all of those to our imported external raster masks. And hopefully I've demonstrated now that we can use multiple external raster masks of any kind, and we can deploy them on any module that they are suitable for guiding and adjustment within that particular module. Depth maps are very, very useful, and there is just no way on God's earth you can create them inside of Darktable. So there you go. Sadly, you can't do them in a lot of the older versions of Photoshop, but depth masks have been around for quite a while, and one or two of you will no doubt inform me and everybody else who views this video of other methods or other bits of software that you can use for generating depth maps. If we now take a snapshot and then come back to our history, and we come back to white balance after orientation, and then we go back to there, and we'll just go and view side by side. That's where we started, that's where we finished. The image looks better. It could do with a little bit of extra local contrast on it. You could maybe go and put a bit of tone mapping on it, I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't bother, but there you go. Just to demonstrate that you can have multiple external raster masks active on your image in different modules, just to help you make your images better in Darktable, using a mask that it will be impossible for you to create within Darktable. So there you go. I hope you've got something useful out of that. Hope you found it interesting, guys. If you have, give it a thumbs up, leave a nice comment in the comments section below, share it with your mates, and until the next time, stay safe, stay well, keep taking those blooming pictures. Send me some in and we can do some YouTube videos on them. And so, like I said, until the next time, see you later, guys. Be good. See ya.